Jones camp says they are having the samples tested again. Daniel Cormier responded by saying, "I'm disappointed to hear the news. It's very emotional. In my mind, on July 29th, I competed and I lost. I thought Jon Jones was the better man that day. I don't know what to think anymore." Meanwhile, Dana White weighed in on the failed drug test as well.
I mean, if this ends up and he gets, and it ends up, getting 2 or 3, it might be the end of his career. So to talk about his legacy, I mean, that's probably the end of his career. I mean, how old is Jon now? 30?
30.
Yeah, 33, 34, trying to make a comeback again. And you look at what could have been and what he could have done, and sad.
It's hard for Dana White to be almost speechless, as he seemed to be, struggling for words at that press conference. But Robin, let's talk about this light heavyweight division, which has really been a bright spot, one of them for the UFC throughout the years. Who do you think should have the title right now if Jon Jones is stripped?
It has to be Cormier, right? I mean, if he walked in with the belt and he lost it to Jon Jones, and then Jones is stripped of the belt, why would the belt then go into the ether instead of back on the man who was the owner of the non-cheating version of the belt there? So I think that has to be the logical move, even if seeing him beaten the way he does is jarring and doesn't exactly resonate with champion.
Well, I mean, Daniel Cormier said it himself. Jon Jones was the better fighter that day. Granted, it was tainted. In some ways, even though these are two men going head-to-head, it almost reminds me a little of USC, University of Southern California, when they had their national championship vacated because it turned out later that Reggie Bush was taking improper benefits. They didn't then give the national championship to the opponent. It just gets vacated. And I could see the UFC doing that here. Maybe they just vacate the title totally and give Daniel Cormier the first shot with the title back, because it was taken from him that day. Just like we saw USC win the title that year, you can't erase your memory from that day, even though after the fact there turned out to be an impropriety.
It just logically doesn't make sense to me. If the title is taken by a guy who is then stripped of it, I think it should go back to the guy who had it. It also makes us look at that post-fight interview with even more scrutiny, because people were questioning Cormier and whether he should have been interviewed being concussed. I mean, this put his actual physical health in danger more than any typical fight. And it also is a big blow to the UFC, because with Conor McGregor doing who knows what beyond the Mayweather-McGregor fight, Jon Jones was the biggest star.
Sure.
And the biggest fight they could make was Jon Jones and Brock Lesnar, which now seems to be no more.